In February 2018, the small town of Deltona, Florida, was about to be thrust into the national spotlight. A brutal murder took place that would send shockwaves through the community, and the details surrounding the crime were nothing short of chilling. Patrick Deera, a 25-year-old man with a promising future, was found lifeless in his home, his body riddled with bullets. The question was simple, yet impossible to answer. Who would want to murder Patrick, a young man so full of life, and why?
Before we begin, our hearts go to the family of Patrick Deera, whose lives were forever changed by this tragic loss. We stand with them as they continue to seek justice and remember the vibrant, loving man Patrick was.
This is True Crime Diaries, where we dive deep into the dark and twisted stories that shock the world. Prepare for a tale of obsession, betrayal, and a murder that left everyone questioning who could truly be trusted. If you're captivated by true crime stories like this, hit that like button and share your thoughts in the comments below. Who do you think was behind this chilling crime? But as the investigation began to unravel, a much darker, more twisted story began to emerge. One filled with jealousy, control, and a vengeance that had been building for years. This was no random act of violence. It was personal. And the motive? It was buried deep in a web of manipulation and obsession, one that would ultimately lead to a man who thought he could control everything, including life and death itself. But what happened next would leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about love, obsession, and revenge. Patrick Deera was born in June 1992 in the bustling city of Miami, Florida, a place known for its beautiful beaches and vibrant culture. His father, Max, was a construction professional who had moved from Spain, while his mother, Patricia, hailed from France. The Deera family was not wealthy, but they were comfortable and, most importantly, happy. Max and Patricia provided their son with a loving home, full of support, encouragement, and opportunities. From a young age, Patrick stood out. He was intelligent, outgoing, and had an infectious personality that made him popular among his peers. Whether in school or at social events, he could light up a room. Patrick was the type of person who could make friends with anyone, and his genuine kindness and charisma made him loved by everyone who knew him. He excelled academically and was particularly interested in construction, following in his father's footsteps. The Deera family, despite their modest background, created a home filled with love and laughter. Patrick grew up with a strong sense of family values. His parents worked hard, not only to provide for him, but to ensure he had the best education. The family was close-knit, with a bond that seemed unshakable, even when life threw challenges their way. However, in the midst of Patrick's university years, his parents made the decision to divorce. This wasn't a messy separation with bitter arguments or a drawn-out legal battle. They parted amicably, deciding to go their separate ways, though they remained friends and continued to co-parent Patrick. While his mother, Patricia, moved to Deltona, a quiet town on the east coast of Florida, Patrick stayed with his father in Miami. Despite the divorce, both parents remained deeply involved in their son's life. In 2017, Patrick's life took an unexpected turn when he met Jessica Devani, a woman from Orlando. They crossed paths on a dating website, one that Patrick had joined on the recommendation of a friend. At first, he didn't take it seriously, not believing that he could really meet someone meaningful on an online platform. But everything changed when he saw Jessica's profile. Jessica was beautiful, with captivating eyes and an alluring smile that immediately drew Patrick in. They began talking, and over the course of a few weeks, the connection between them deepened. They exchanged phone numbers and started calling each other every evening. Their conversations were long and meaningful, covering everything from their hopes and dreams to their past experiences. It didn't take long before both Patrick and Jessica realized that this was something special. When they decided to meet in person, they agreed on a location halfway between Orlando and Miami. The moment they met face to face, Patrick knew Jessica was the one. He had been searching for someone like her his entire life. Despite their age difference, she was 4 years older than him, Patrick knew she was the one he wanted to build a future with. Jessica felt the same way. It was a whirlwind romance, but one built on a foundation of mutual respect, trust, and a shared desire for something real. Patrick couldn't wait to tell his mother about the woman he had met. On the way home from their first meeting, he called Patricia, his voice full of excitement and joy. "Mom, I've met her. I've found the one I want to marry," he said, his words full of certainty. Patricia, hearing the happiness in her son's voice, was thrilled for him. She had always wanted him to find true love, and from what he described, it seemed like Patrick had found it. For the next several months, the couple's relationship blossomed. They visited each other on weekends, spending time together in quiet, intimate settings. Patrick often made the long drive to Deltona to see Jessica, staying in a hotel for the weekend before returning to Miami for work. But the distance between them was a challenge. They wanted to be together more often, but Jessica had a job in Orlando that she couldn't leave just yet. Still, they made it work, and their relationship grew stronger with each passing day. In December 2017, Patrick made a major life decision. He moved to Deltona to be closer to Jessica. He bought a house in a quiet neighborhood and began preparing it for their life together. The house was a project for Patrick, a place where he could build a home for them both. He even started making repairs and renovations, ensuring it would be the perfect place for their future. Jessica, meanwhile, couldn't have been happier. They had discussed getting engaged, and Patrick had already started planning a surprise. He had ordered an engagement ring, but it hadn't arrived in time for their New Year's celebration. So, on the night of December 31st, Patrick arranged a private fireworks display in his backyard, and as Jessica marveled at the spectacle, he got down on one knee and proposed. Jessica, overcome with emotion, said yes. As the couple prepared for their future together, little did they know that dark forces were already at play, threatening to destroy everything they had built. Just 2 months after their engagement, Patrick's life was suddenly cut short. On February 27th, 2018, everything seemed to be going perfectly. Patrick had made arrangements to settle into his new home, eagerly preparing for the next steps in his life with Jessica. His father, Max, was excited about the progress his son had made. It was a phone call that would disrupt everything. Max, trying to reach Patrick about an order that had been delivered to his house, grew concerned when there was no answer. This was unlike his son. Patrick always made sure to keep in touch, especially when it came to business matters. Max, unable to get through, called Jessica in a panic. Jessica had also been trying to reach Patrick all morning. Something felt off. Max, with worry mounting, suggested Jessica check on Patrick. She immediately dropped what she was doing and rushed over to the house. When she arrived, she saw Patrick's car parked in the driveway, confirming he hadn't left. She approached the front door and, still calling out to him, entered the house. What she discovered inside would haunt her for the rest of her life. Patrick's lifeless body lay at the bottom of the stairs, a pool of blood surrounding him. His face had been brutally smashed, and his body showed signs of a violent struggle. There was no mistaking it. The young man she had promised to marry was gone. Jessica immediately dialed 911, but the paramedics who arrived on the scene could do nothing but declare him dead. As the officers arrived, Jessica, devastated and heartbroken, was sobbing uncontrollably.
Ma'am, come over here. Stay here behind the tree.
When one of the detectives approached her, she barely looked up, her eyes red and swollen from crying. She simply said, "I know who did this." It was Gregory. The name, spoken with such certainty, caused the detective to pause, unsure whether it was grief or truth speaking. But Jessica was clear. She didn't hesitate to reveal that her ex-boyfriend, Gregory Bender, was behind Patrick's murder. Detective Chad Weaver and his team quickly began piecing together the fragments of Patrick's last moments, but the crime scene revealed little. The house had not been ransacked, and there were no signs of a forced entry. Patrick's valuables, his car, his wallet, and his belongings were untouched. The only thing that seemed out of place was the missing hard drives from the security system. As they scoured the scene, the nature of the wounds on Patrick's body pointed to a personal vendetta. The victim had been shot 4 times, twice in the chest, once in the thigh, and the fatal shot to the head. The investigators quickly ruled out a robbery and focused on a more sinister possibility. Someone close to Patrick had a deep, personal motive to hurt him. Jessica's accusation directed attention toward Gregory Bender, her ex-boyfriend. Gregory was a wealthy businessman with his own investment firm, but he wasn't just financially successful. He was a man used to getting what he wanted. His relationship with Jessica had been controlling, manipulative, and abusive. Jessica had known that, but it wasn't until much later that she would understand just how far Gregory would go to maintain control over her life. The couple had been together for nearly 8 years before Jessica finally broke free. Gregory had wooed her with lavish gifts, trips to exotic locations, and promises of a life of luxury. But as the years passed, his controlling nature grew more intense. Gregory demanded to know where she was at all times, monitored her phone, and isolated her from her friends. He even went so far as to threaten any man who showed interest in her. When Jessica finally realized she had to break free, she did so quietly, starting a new relationship with Patrick. But Gregory, unwilling to let her go, began stalking her. He sent threatening messages to Patrick, trying to intimidate him into ending things. When that didn't work, he turned to more sinister tactics. He had the resources to make the threats a reality, and Jessica knew it. She was scared. The couple
Bender
obtained a restraining order against Gregory, and Jessica insisted they install security cameras around the house.
He was not allowed to come near my workplace or my house, and I also listed Patrick's residence in the restraining order.
But it wasn't just paranoia. It was a response to Gregory's relentless obsession. Jessica knew him well enough to realize that if he couldn't control her, he would stop at nothing to destroy her happiness. And now, it seemed like he had done just that. As we dive deeper into this twisted case, ask yourself, could anyone have predicted this deadly turn? If you're hooked so far, make sure to like this video and drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you think Gregory was the mastermind behind it all? Let us know what you think, and don't forget to share this with anyone who loves a good true crime story. And if you want to stay updated on more jaw-dropping cases like this, hit that subscribe button and join us for more. As the investigation deepened, detectives turned their attention to Gregory's background. They uncovered a history of manipulation, control, and escalating threats. But it wasn't until they received a tip from Gregory's estranged wife, Dara Sanchez, that the case began to crack open. Dara, who had been living with Gregory for years, had always suspected something wasn't right. After their separation, she found a strange notebook in Gregory's office. Inside, she discovered a detailed floor plan of Patrick's house and a series of notes about the best way to get past the security systems. Gregory had not only planned the murder, but he had meticulously mapped out every detail, including the time of day Patrick would return home, how to disable the cameras, and how to kill him without leaving any evidence. Dara had dismissed the notes at the time, but when she saw a news report about Patrick's murder, everything clicked into place. She contacted the authorities and revealed what she had found. The detectives now had a lead, and they quickly searched Gregory's house. What they found was both damning and chilling. In Gregory's office, they discovered the notebook Dara had mentioned. The pages detailing Patrick's house and the steps to kill him were ripped out, but after a thorough search, Investigators found them crumpled up in a trash bin. These weren't the musings of an angry ex-lover. They were the detailed plans of a cold-blooded killer. Further evidence began to surface. A shell casing found in Gregory's home matched one discovered at the crime scene. Forensic experts confirmed it was the same type of ammunition used in the murder. Gregory had failed to dispose of all the evidence, and his hubris may have been his undoing. The investigation took unexpected twists and turns, with Gregory's own arrogance leading him closer to the truth. As the police pieced together the clues, they found that Gregory had not only prepared for the murder, but had also made sure to erase any trace of his involvement. He disposed of the murder weapon, cleaned his clothes, and used gloves to avoid leaving fingerprints. But his overconfidence in his planning led him to make one fatal mistake. He didn't destroy the notebook, and he didn't expect his wife to find it. Jessica, still reeling from the loss of Patrick, couldn't help but feel a sense of justice beginning to emerge. Gregory had made her feel trapped for years, but now it was clear he couldn't escape his own actions. As the case against him built, Jessica couldn't shake the feeling that even in the darkest times, truth had a way of surfacing. With Gregory's arrest came the trial. But while the evidence was mounting, Gregory's defense attorneys tried to discredit the case at every turn. They questioned the legality of the search of his home, attempted to shift blame to Jessica, and cast doubt on the credibility of the key evidence. Gregory's wealth and influence made him a formidable adversary, and it seemed as though he might just be able to buy his way out of the consequences of his actions. By the time Gregory Bender's trial began in May 2021, over 3 years had passed since the brutal murder of Patrick Deera. Gregory had hired a top-tier legal team, and with his wealth, they were ready to fight tooth and nail to protect him. From the start, it was clear that this wouldn't be an easy trial. Despite the mounting evidence, the case was far from straightforward. Gregory's defense attorneys were skilled, attempting to discredit every piece of evidence and confuse the jury with technicalities. Their main strategy was to attack the credibility of Jessica, painting her as an untrustworthy witness who had provoked Gregory's actions. They claimed that Jessica had led Gregory to believe that their relationship could still be salvaged, and that her actions, particularly the way she moved on with Patrick, had humiliated him. The defense argued that this humiliation pushed Gregory to the point of murder. Jessica, however, remained resolute. She took the stand, her voice steady but filled with emotion as she recounted her tumultuous relationship with Gregory. She described how he had once been her knight in shining armor, showering her with gifts and attention, but slowly revealed his darker side,
was threatening and
his controlling nature, his manipulations, and his unrelenting jealousy.
He would not harm anyone. It felt really odd. I felt like he was trying to put on a show because he kept trying to get close to me and trying to hold my hand, which he never used to do. I was like, what are you doing? I was like, what are you trying to do?
She shared how he had monitored her every move, how he had cut her off from friends and family, and how he had done everything in his power to keep her isolated. I had to leave, Jessica explained on the stand, her voice breaking slightly. It was suffocating. I couldn't breathe. I met Patrick, and for the first time in my life, I felt free. I felt loved. And that's when Gregory started threatening him. He was never going to let me go. The courtroom was captivated by her testimony, but Gregory's lawyers weren't going to make this easy. They tried to paint Jessica as someone who had led Gregory on, accusing her of using him for his wealth while secretly starting a relationship with Patrick. They suggested that Jessica was a mercenary, only interested in the expensive gifts Gregory had lavished upon her. The defense painted a picture of a woman who had played both men against each other, driving Gregory to a breaking point. But Jessica held firm. She provided crucial evidence, screenshots of threatening text messages, phone records showing Gregory's constant harassment, and even a copy of the restraining order they had filed against him. Her testimony was backed by forensic evidence, the shell casings, the missing security footage, and Gregory's own detailed plan for the murder. Throughout the trial, Gregory remained calm, almost eerily so. He seemed to believe that his wealth and influence would be enough to get him off. He never once showed remorse, and even when Jessica gave her powerful testimony, he sat stone-faced, his eyes locked onto her with an intensity that seemed almost predatory. At one point, during a cross-examination, Gregory's defense attorney attempted to shift the blame onto Jessica. "Isn't it true, Ms. Devani, that you provoked Mr. Bender with your actions? You were the one who registered on a dating site, seeking another man while still in a relationship with him, weren't you?" the lawyer asked. Jessica didn't flinch. "I left him," she said firmly. "I left because he was toxic. I don't owe him anything." Her words echoed in the courtroom, and many in the gallery were visibly moved by her courage. As the trial continued, the suspense built. Gregory's defense team worked tirelessly to undermine Jessica's credibility and cast doubt on the evidence. But despite their best efforts, the case against Gregory was overwhelming. The jury saw through the defense's tactics and understood the true nature of Gregory's actions. One of the most dramatic moments came when Daora Sanchez, Gregory's estranged wife, was called to testify. She had remained largely silent throughout the trial, but when the prosecution called her as a witness, everything changed. Daora had always known something was off about Gregory. She had been living with him when she found the notebook detailing Patrick's house and the plans for the murder.
Yeah.
It was her testimony that had opened the floodgates of evidence against him. When Daora took the stand, she told the court about the strange notebook she had found in Gregory's office and how it contained detailed information about Patrick's home and the murder. "I knew something was wrong," Daora said, her voice trembling. "But I didn't realize how far he had gone. I didn't know how deep it went until I saw the news about Patrick's death. Then I remembered the plan." Daora's testimony was crucial in linking Gregory to the murder. Her account of finding the notebook and her willingness to speak out against her husband made it impossible for the defense to dismiss her. In a stunning turn, Gregory's arrogance had led to his own downfall. He had underestimated the power of his own secrets being exposed. As the trial reached its climax, Gregory's composure began to crack. His facade of control started to slip, and his true nature began to show. On the witness stand, he tried to appear as calm and collected as ever, but anyone watching could see the subtle signs of fear creeping into his expression. When Jessica took the stand for her final testimony, Gregory couldn't even look at her. "You didn't think I would ever escape from your control, did you?" Jessica said, her eyes locking onto his. "But I did, and I will never let you hurt anyone again." Gregory, caught off guard, muttered something under his breath, but his words were drowned out by the sound of Jessica's voice. "I will never forgive you for what you did," she added, her voice steady and resolute. "But I will find peace. Patrick deserves justice." The jury was visibly moved by Jessica's testimony, and it became clear that they were on her side. The defense's attempt to shift the blame onto her had backfired, and Gregory's arrogance had left him vulnerable. The case against him was solid, and the evidence was irrefutable.
And I just found Patrick was on the floor with a big pool of blood next to his head. It was just the worst thing you could ever see in your entire life. My whole world was taken away.
We, the jury, find the defendant, Gregory Bender, as follows. Guilty of the charge of first-degree murder as charged...
After days of testimony, the jury deliberated for hours. The tension in the courtroom was palpable as everyone awaited the verdict. Gregory sat at the defendant's table, his eyes fixed on the floor, clearly nervous for the first time in the entire trial. When the jury finally returned, the judge asked them to present their verdict.
Find the defendant,
We, the jury, find the defendant, Gregory Bender, guilty of first-degree murder.
First-degree murder as charged in the indictment.
The words echoed in the courtroom. A sense of relief washed over Jessica and Patrick's family, while Gregory's face twisted in a mix of disbelief and anger.
You die there.
Gregory was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole.
I'm going to finish you off. The same thing you did to my son.
Sir, Max, you have to address the judge. You have to address the judge.
I will miss my son. He was a beautiful soul. A beautiful kid.
I hope you feel some peace, Patrick. Rest.
I want to thank all of you for having put evil where it belongs.
Wonderful son, and he loved kids, he loved babies. Have grandchildren from him.
We're gonna have like the fairy tale life.
And one day he came and he said, "Mom, this one is the one. This one is the one."
Got to say goodbye to my son. I never got to talk to him. Nothing.
The judge's voice was firm as he delivered the sentence, ensuring that Gregory would never be able to manipulate or control anyone again. As the courtroom cleared, Jessica stood next to Patrick's family, her hand clutching the engagement ring he had given her. "He may be gone," she whispered to his mother,
every day,
"but he will never be forgotten. We will keep his memory alive, and I'll live for both of us."
The love of my life. The ring is one of the last things that I have to hold near, and it's a connection that I have with Patrick. I want Patrick to be remembered with nothing but a sense of love because of the love that he had to show everyone.
Gregory Bender's conviction brought a sense of justice, but it also left behind a trail of scars. For Jessica, it was the end of a long and painful chapter. Though the truth had been revealed, the wounds of betrayal, manipulation, and loss would never fully heal. But the question remains, can someone ever truly escape the grip of a dangerous obsession? As Gregory serves his life sentence, Jessica continues to wear the engagement ring Patrick had given her, a symbol of the love they never got to fully experience. Her fight for justice has come to an end, but the journey of healing is just beginning. Will justice always prevail, or are there darker forces lurking just beneath the surface?
For Patrick, I will live in his happy memories close to my heart.
If you want to hear more chilling true crime stories like this, hit that subscribe button and join us for the next shocking revelation. You won't want to miss it. Until next time, stay aware, stay safe, and always look a little deeper. This is True Crime Diaries, where every story has a pulse,